My name, Raul Ochoa. I work with the U.S. Creator team. So that is my specialty, Creator. However, Creator does have the ability to use Deluge. So I work with Deluge a lot. That's why I'm giving this presentation here today. I'm doing this a little bit different than when I usually talk about Deluge. So typically I go through a lot of live demos, get to code a lot. But I did not know, you guys, the audience, what level within Zoho you were going to have. So what I decided to do in this case is I'm going to show you guys a few use cases where Deluge kind of shined and helped power up some applications. Deluge is used all over Zoho, right? All our applications. But I do have a couple of use cases with Creator, and then I'm going to talk about how some of these other tools can take advantage of the scripting language and leverage it. So we'll have time for a few questions, and I would like to maybe kind of have a discussion on, some of the items I'll be talking about today. Powering your applications with Deluge. So the little agenda here, we're going to talk about what it is, just in case some of you guys don't know what it is. We're going to talk about the difference between our drag and drop interface and Deluge, so you guys can get an idea of where that comes into play. Where Deluge can be used, it's found in different areas of the applications, where you can learn more about it, and a few other items under. Now, what is Deluge? Right, so Deluge is our proprietary scripting language. It enables the users to manipulate the data, to do things that normally the UI doesn't allow us to do. Right, so in short, that's basically what it is. Now, the UI is only going to take you to certain places, right? Like users can utilize applications for all sorts of reasons. You might have different use cases. So, I think Zoho does a pretty good job about giving a lot of options, the ability to do a lot of things within our platforms. But you are going to get to a place that maybe you want to do something that's quite not there. That is the exact perfect place to use Deluge, right? Deluge is going to enable you to get the data, to manipulate it, to do whatever you intend to do with it. Okay, so where is it used? I mentioned it already. We have over 50 plus applications. I'm sure that you guys already use it. So if you guys haven't used any of the applications yet, right, I encourage you guys to use it. You will probably find the word workflow in a lot of the applications. That's what we call our instructions or automation process. And even though we do have the UI that allows us to drag and drop and create some of this automation processes, part of these workflows are going to be Deluge. So that's where you'll find it. The words are usually used interchangeably. You'll find Deluge, functions, workflows. You'll find them a little bit differently on a lot of the Zoho applications. Typically, though, you'll go to the settings of the application you're using. Let's say you're using Creator or you're using Books or CRM. You'll usually go to the settings section. There'll be a developer section on there. Maybe integrations, you might see something like that. And you'll find the word workflow, functions, Deluge, and practically the same thing. Is just named differently in on the platforms. All right, so before I start going into the demos and talking about some of the use cases, this is some of the places within our resources where you can find out more about it. So I put a link on there. If you go to zoho.com/Deluge, you'll find a very good resource to learn about the computer language, about the scripting language. You'll be able to interact with it, test some of the functions on there. Very good tutorial that you can walk through to understand the basics. And then some of those QR codes there take you to some of the YouTube videos that we've created, some of the team members in my team. We've actually created different tracks where it talks more about advanced concepts, about some of the things that have been done in the past. So that's also a good resource if you guys want to take a look at that. All right, so let's go with the actual examples now. The first example that I'm going to talk about is dealing with Creator. In Creator, it's a development platform for you guys that don't know about this. It's a custom development platform, typically used whenever there's a use case that one of the other tools that we have cannot accomplish or cannot, do the job for you guys. A lot of the times they use to complement them. You could do pretty much everything on Creator. It's a very robust tool. But we typically tell our users, right, if there's a tool that's already doing the job, there's no need to rebuild it. So Creator, usually you'll see it packaged with another tool, working in conjunction. In this case, we found a lot of use cases where users create multiple applications on the Creator platform and then want to get those applications to share data, right? So how do you do that? You have to create Deluge functions, right? It's the easiest way. There are certain things in there, if you're familiar with the platform, like lookups that allow you to associate different things. But if you want to completely share data, manipulate the data between different applications, then you must create a function to accomplish that. So in this case, we have two applications, application A and application B. And we create a function in application A, the first application, to get the data that we want to share with application B. We package it, cleanse it, do whatever we want, and then set it up to only send that data over to application B. Now, it works sort of in the reverse order because application A has to package the data how you want it, and then you have to call that from application B. But that is probably the most efficient way to do it. A lot of people that I talk to, that's part of my role at Zoho. I talk to a lot of potential customers and existing customers to see their use cases are possible, kind of give them the best idea on how to architect the solution. This is probably the most effective way to do it. Deluge is perfect for this. It simplifies the process, and I'm going to show you guys a little video of how this is getting accomplished on the demo account. So it's the exact same scenario that I told you guys about. That's application A. Simple form, just for the demo. You guys are going to see there's a title, a number, and a currency, just 3 different field sets. There's a few records that are already entered on that application. And then we go to application B. Application B has a form that was supposed to receive that data and insert it on there. For this video, all I did was just info out or display the values on the screen. But once the information gets pulled by the second application, you can easily do whatever you want with that data. Insert it into the table, do some sort of calculation. In this case, we create the first function. The first function on the first application is called getData. We used a collection variable in this case because we felt that was the easiest way to get the information and pass it over to the other application. So as you can see there, we get the 3 items. We assign it to a new collection variable. We do a loop to look through every single record of data, and then we push it to the variable that's going to be passed on or returned when the function gets called. And so similarly, this can be done with different types of values. In this case, we use a collection, but if it's a simple number, it can be done as an integer, string, depends on the use case, right? But I think a collection usually is the right way to go. You can pass different types of values through there. And here I'm showing the second application, what we call the first function that we created. Very simple. Create a variable that's going to hold the value that's being returned by the function. And then we're going to loop through that same variable that contains the data now. We have an info on there, and I think I'm going to execute it in this video so you guys can see the data actually being passed. So you can see it pulls the title for the item. On the video, I create a new record so you can see that it's happening, live on that demo there. So we create a test record, and then we go again and execute that function. So you can see that the new value actually appears on there. One thing, I don't know how experienced you guys are with Deluge on there, but what I'm doing there is basically just getting another part of that data that's being passed over with a function, and that's how you access each piece of data from that collection variable that's being passed, right? So I'm just showing you the example so you can see how a collection is the entirety of the value, and then it's being passed with what we call a key. So we have a relationship of key value, and I think I show the example on there. The words that say the title, number, and currency, that's something that I'm actually calling myself or assigning myself on the first function. And I think I highlight that there by showing the currency. And when I go back to the other function, you're going to see where I enter that information. But that's just because I'm using a collection variable. Almost done with that video, and then we'll go over to the next example. So the second example of using Deluge, and I think this is going to be a little bit more interesting. It's a use case also with Creator. If you guys, a lot of you guys use Creator already, we have a really good user permission set there. We're allowed to create different user permissions and be able to allow different types of users to see whatever data, whatever sections of the application we want to give. In this use case, this was a client that I spoke to. They had administrators at their company. This is a medical company that needed to be able to designate what users were going to see what type of data. But this administrator was not very technical. So they did not want to give the level of access that could potentially break the application if they were going to change different permissions or make any sort of administrative movement that could jeopardize the operations of the business. So they wanted to figure out a solution. So what we did is kind of create a sub-level user authorization that can be easily changed based on the location of some of these employees. So in this use case, it was healthcare facility, there was physicians, and there was patient records, multiple locations. So the administrator wanted to be able to assign which patient records can be accessed by the specific physician. And because these physicians would rotate from locations, that would change pretty often. So we created that sub-level, and we did it by creating an association of a table with different locations and matched it with the patient record and the physician. So by using functions in Deluge, we're able to filter this and only assign or only allow to see the records that are associated with that physician. And I'll show you the video. That way you guys probably make more sense. But Deluge was able to help us in this use case, and we were able to filter by what a function in Deluge was returning as the value. So I'll show you guys this right now. So what you guys are looking at, it's a portal in the creator application. This is what the physician would see. So this is just an example, but in the bottom, they see all the patients associated with location B, which is where this physician was working at that specific point in time. That's a table that contains all the physicians working for the organization. As you can see, there was a field on there that contains the location where they're going to be working at. And then we have a form that has all the locations that belong to the organization. So that's what actually makes the mapping, what associates a patient with a location with a physician. Those are all the patient records. Now that's the user that I'm highlighting down there, the portal user. So you guys can see that it's associated with my name. It's just a demo email account that we have. And I'm assigned to location B. That's why we see only those records. All right, so this is the administrator view. So you can see that the report down there, it's filtered with nothing on there. That's because it's not detecting a portal user being logged in. But we have this function that gets assigned that actually detects when a portal user logs in, and he pulls which location is associated with that specific user. That's what that function does there on Deluge. So that value gets returned, and we use that function in a filter of that report. So it dynamically pulls which location the user is actually assigned to. So I think right there, I'm going to show you guys the report and what we use a filter. I've encountered that a lot of users don't realize that they can use expressions on some of these filters, the fields, instead of using an actual static value. So when you go to the properties of a report, you can actually do a filter, and you can use a function in there. So that's really powerful because then you can control what gets dynamically inputted in there. That is basically what powers this solution. I think it's very simple, a couple of lines of code, but it was very impactful, very useful for this user. It allowed them to do exactly what they needed. So here, I'm just editing my record, switching location A. So you can see how dynamically, when you go back to the dashboard or to the portal, you can refresh the dashboard and the records would automatically update. So this was extremely powerful because as the organization also grew, all they had to do was add additional locations on that form. And now when a new physician or a new patient would come into the organization, all they have to do is just select that they belong to that specific location, and it helped them scale without having to go back and restructure the way the application was built. So that's where Deluge can actually shine as well. Can help you do things dynamically. All right, so for the third example, it's more about talking within the other applications, right? I don't have an actual use case for every single application out there. I have a lot of them, so I would have never finished this presentation. But you do find the ability to use Deluge in all of our Zoho applications, right? It all comes down to the use case, right? Most of the time, I'm pretty sure that all of you guys use not just one application in the Zoho ecosystem. Probably use a combination of all of them. Deluge, it's kind of what's going to help you piece those things together. On the background, even if you use, drag and drop interface, Deluge is powering this. Deluge is helping with those integrations, those connections, right? So you find it in a lot of these locations. I just put a couple of steps of where you can find it on CRM and Zoho Books, because it's probably some of the applications that I hear about the most. But you can find it in there. Typically, if you go to the settings, like I mentioned earlier, there's a developer section on there. I'll show a quick video how that kind of looks. But it's, unfortunately, I think that's one of the things that we need to work at in Zoho is that not all the menus look exactly the same, right? So there's some terms that you'll find that are used interchangeably a little bit. Deluge, developer, those areas, that's where you'll find Deluge. It's typically the level of user that's going to start looking into these things. But, you should definitely look through it. If you haven't used Deluge, it's a tool that you guys should try to understand if you guys don't use it yet, because it will help you, do a lot of great things with your applications. let me show you this quick video so you can see how different it looks in these two applications. So this is CRM, right? It's a demo account. Go to settings. You're going to find all these sub-menus on there. So typically you'll look for somewhere for, like in this example where it says Developer Hub, right? In there, you can easily see the word function, but you're going to see how it's a little more obscure in the other applications. So it might take you a little bit to kind of look through it. But once you know where it's at, the more you use the applications, I think it'll seem a little more natural. So you typically choose a function name or workflow name, pretty much the same thing for us. And then you're going to choose which module, which area of that platform you're going to be utilizing this function on. Then you go to the editor, right? That's where you actually write Deluge. So one cool thing about our Deluge editor is that, I don't know how many of you guys are actual developers or have some development experience, but it's impossible to remember everything off the top of your head, right? You're always going to do a little bit of research, look at references, look at maybe previous code that you used. Our editor actually helps you with the syntax on the left column. I don't know if you guys caught that, but there's a list of different things that you can do with Deluge. You can easily just click on those and it'll help you write the code. At least it'll make you remember the syntax where things should be, if you're missing something. So it speeds up the development process a lot. That's the menu that I'm talking about right there on the left side. So right here, I'm just writing a very simple Deluge script. I think I assigned a variable with a value, and then I'm just using what we call a conditional to check to see the value is equal to the value that we assigned to it. And if it is, then it executes that info message and kind of spits that out on the screen for us. Now, this is a very simple example, but just want to show you guys that's how you can execute Deluge on there. Typically, one of the areas that you're going to use Deluge a lot is to do integrations. I think that's a beautiful thing that Deluge can do for us. I'm going to talk about it after this demo. There's something called integrated data tasks, sections of Deluge that can be used to get our applications to talk to each other. Now, this is Zoho to Zoho, similar to what an API would be, if you guys are familiar with that, to access external resources. Same thing, but it enables you to get two applications in the Zoho ecosystem to talk to each other. And we have really good resources on that, which I'll share a page where you can find that as well. This is what we're looking at here in this video. This is books. It looks slightly different. You can see similar UI, but some of the wording there is different. Here it says workflow. And then after you click on workflow actions, then you can see custom functions in there. So it's just like another little layer on the menu. All right, so just writing a function name on there. Once again, you choose a module or which area of books you want to interact with. And the editor actually opens in the same page in this case. Very similar. It gives you an example of how to write some Deluge code on there. But just like on CRM, you can actually execute it or save it or create it, schedule it, whatever you want to do with that actual code. All right, so examples for Deluge can be leveraged. Like I mentioned, it can be done in a lot of places, right? So you have all of these applications. Might not be in every single one. I know Zoho does have a few no-code applications where you might not be able to use Deluge, but I would say like 98, 99% of our platform can leverage Deluge to accomplish some of these tasks. All right, so these are the integration tasks that I was telling you about. I always encourage everybody using Deluge to know where the resource pages are, the help documents in our platform. They're great. I know sometimes, and if you already use them, you'll know that it's difficult to navigate through them, but learn them. It's going to help you, especially if you are using the platform, if you're looking to really utilizing it and leveraging everything that we got to offer. Learn where these things are at. I'm just showing an example here that you can go to the Deluge page. That's the one that I was talking about that allows you to learn and kind of interact with it. But you're going to see right now that I click on resources and I actually go to the help documents. These help documents have examples. They may have commonly seen errors with explanations of why you might get those. So it's really useful resources. We use these ourselves in our internal team. So we don't have like a special, repository of things that we don't want to share with you guys. We use the same tools. We use our tools to do our job. So if you go on here, you're going to see some of these integration tasks. I'm showing this here on the left side. And I'm going to click through a few of those so you can see some of the examples, how our documentation actually gets displayed on there. Yeah, and this video is pretty much just going through that on there. But yeah, a lot of those things, the teams in Zoho kind of work a little bit independently, right? If you guys notice working with Zoho already, we do have a Deluge team, but for the most part, the internal team for the specific product you're trying to work with has to kind of provide this documentation. So overall, it gets placed on these areas. So look at these because it will simplify the process of manipulating the data between different Zoho solutions. Those are the examples of some of the error codes that you might encounter. There's a little bit of information on there. If you guys use the editors and gotten errors before, some of those errors are not very detailed, right? So you often have to research. You'll probably find more information on our help documentation than that on the actual editor or the application. So look at the resources. Most likely you're gonna find information that's gonna make your job, your life easier with our platform. Several things on there. See, analytics has one. I specifically work with the creator data tests a lot, but it does make life easier. Thank you, guys.